Hey, flappers, welcome to a new segment that has yet to be named where I talk about some of the big stuff happening in and around the D&D community. Some news came in this week about D&D's future edition, One DnD. I guess they don't like the term edition, so I'll call it a volume. There's a lot to be said, and I have a lot of feelings about it, which are mostly good. They followed up the announcement with this. A 21-page document basically overhauling character origins. This whole thing is meant to supplement rules into 5e such that we can play test little bits of One DnD at a time. A few tweaks were made here and there. They added a new race that's called Ardling, but by far the biggest and most effective changes revolve around character backgrounds. And that's what we're talking about today. You might find that a little weird because in 5e, backgrounds seemed a little empty and hollow with a couple of benefits. Background traits never really came in handy, and a lot of times it never really felt like your character fit into the few categories that you could actually choose from. Now, One DnD is allowing you to build character backgrounds from scratch. Instead of having to bend your backstory around something that's already written, you can have your backstory and eat it too. And don't worry, if you liked building backstory around the pre-made backgrounds, they kept those too. This new system strikes a really good balance between accessible and crunchy. It's kind of like my favorite candy, Nestle Bunch Crunch. It's got the convenience of popcorn, but also a really good mouthfeel. And you know what else has a good mouthfeel? Liking this video. Oh man. Yeah, we're just going to move on from that. Before you get too excited, customization's not the only change One DnD is making for backgrounds. They kept the same features, but added two really good new ones. Most notably, your level 1 ability scores will be determined by your background and not your race. I think this is a huge leap for D&D as a whole. The idea that your race has a bigger influence than your background on your skills and abilities is a little antiquated. If you want a race to be hardy, you can achieve that through other mechanics, like the orc trait's powerful build and relentless endurance. Now you can do what makes sense for your character's story, and you're not pressured to pick one race over another. Orcs can be wizards, gnomes can be barbarians, and all is right in the world. One DnD also introduces for backgrounds the idea of a first level feat. This was a homebrew rule at like so many tables, and it could help make a character more interesting. A first level feat is a really cool way to be able to customize your background in a way that gives you an actual mechanical use. They did add a pretty meager list of feats here for first level. I have a good feeling they'll probably add more as time goes on. This is the list that they've given us, which is probably less than 10. I would expect to see more in the future. All of this is to say, it seems like One DnD is being built around two ideas. The first they've stated outright, which is that they understand the way players are playing D&D right now, which is pretty cool that they're paying attention to that when social media companies can't seem to figure out how people work at all. The second is to open up the rules such that they can blend in with your character's background rather than the other way around. There doesn't have to be a sacrifice of mechanics for a good story anymore. If they continue with this trend of following these two ideas, I think we'll see more great things from One DnD. Hey, if you have a good name for this segment, go ahead and leave it in the comments. I'll read through them and I'll see if I can find one that I really like. Otherwise, thank you for watching, and I'll catch you next time.